Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Bloss Backyard 2 p.m. session, sponsored by Bank of Ireland. I'm delighted to be up on stage again today with you all, to have a full room, and to host this session, which is all about understanding branding fundamentals. So we're going to talk a lot about branding, diving into the sort of rebranding process or the branding process if you haven't started yet. Some lessons from the field, which is really important, and some practical advice that hopefully you can all take away at the end of the session. I'd really, really strongly encourage you to ask questions, and we'll leave a little bit of time at the end for you to grab the mic from Vivian there and ask this wonderful panel some questions, some burning questions. The panel, I'm delighted to have three individuals with me today. So immediately beside me is Pat Kinsley from NEWorld, Mairéad Finnegan from Roll It Pastry, and Shemaine Doyle from Be Brave marketing agency. I'm going to get each of them to just tell the audience a little bit about yourselves. So Pat, maybe you could kick off.
Okay, hello and good afternoon. Pat Kinsley is my name. I'm the founder of a company called NEWorld. It's a company established 40 years ago, and the essence of what NEWorld's all about is brand focus. Okay, it's actually working with individuals, working with entities, companies to actually find out what is your point of difference, your sole key point of difference. And once we have that, okay, it's the eureka moment, we start to build branding. After that, it's a bit like psychology in a way. And once we have that, like I say, we build branding, which starts with the stories, the brand truths, and then into packaging. NEWorld is great because it's multifunctional. It has a great digital aspect of it. It has a fantastic packaging aspect as well. But at the center of everything is actually the brand understanding and the true focus of what branding is about.
Brilliant.
Mairéad Finnegan from Roll It Pastry. I'm based in Kells in County Meath, and we produce all butter ready-to-roll pastry, all Irish butter ready-to-roll pastry. So we have 4 products in the range. We do a gluten-free short crust, and then we have an all-butter puff, and 2 short crusts, a sweet and a plain short crust. And so we're probably in business about 10 years at this stage. Can't believe it's that long, but anyway, it's... I produce under my own brand, and then I produce for Dunne stores under the Simply Better brand as well. And that's pretty much
fantastic.
All about
and
me.
Mairéad is up for an award at 2:30 today.
Yeah,
so wishing you the best of luck.
Thank you.
And we will have to let Mairéad leave.
Yeah.
So she's there for that next door. Shemaine.
I'm Shemaine Doyle, and I have my own marketing agency called Brave. And basically what we do, we call ourselves the No BS Fun Foodie Marketeers. So we really help to bring brands to life and bringing them to life, identifying opportunities and bringing them to life within stores. So working with the likes of Pat and the NEWorld team and helping to actually execute that. So bringing it to life in reality, and also helping brands to understand what are the opportunities out there and making sure that they're getting known. So
brilliant. So before I jump into some of the burning questions that I have for you all, it's just to let you know that Mairéad is one of 4 participants going through a new initiative, a test pilot programme that we launched this year with the support of Bloss na hÉireann and Taste for Success Skillnet. And it's called the Brand Bite branding programme. And we were very fortunate to secure funding through Skillnet Ireland to allow for producers to actually have their brand, re-energised, reinvigorated, redesigned, and to take them through a training programme of 12 weeks to help, I suppose, to develop not just the brand, but their business growth into the future. As funding goes, we cannot guarantee that the same funding will come our way for 2025. But I'm really optimistic that we will get funding. So for anybody that's interested through the session or by the end of the session in maybe applying for that as a participant next year, I have a QR code, very technically savvy this year. I'm going to send it around if you want to scan the QR code and just simply register your interest for now. Probably takes about 2 minutes. So I'll leave it with you all. And if anybody wants to hear more about the programme, feel free to reach out to me. I'm around for the next couple of days. But to jump into it and really, I suppose, just understanding at a top level brand fundamentals, Pat, what would you say are the most common misconceptions that food and drink producers have about branding?
Yeah, before I answer that, I just want to say, talk about branding and a commercial break. I love this. You just go and sell the program just like that. Pass around that. Okay, I see we have sponsors for this whole event, but yet you stole the stage. Well done. And also, just to touch on the Brand Bite program is actually, I know Mairéad will get into it a little bit more. It's actually really more about scrutinizing what you have, and that's a really frightening word. So, using the word frightening, you're asking what challenges they have.
What are the misconceptions?
Yeah. Well, the misconceptions is I can't afford that. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm nervous. It's about packaging. That's the biggest probably misconception. It's all about packaging, all right? That's wrong, because when you're actually looking at rebranding, it's actually, packaging's part of it, but the best way to look at it is you have to go in, and I always describe it as, especially if you're rebranding, if you bought an old house and you have your friends coming over in a couple of weeks and you decide to put up wallpaper, and then they come in and they go, well, the place is really great, and then about 3 or 4 weeks later, all of a sudden the wallpaper could start to crack because you didn't fix the walls. So when you're rebranding, you really need to go in and reassess what you're all about. But the misconceptions are, it's just about packaging, and it's frightening.
Or just about a logo sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's in the packaging area, right?
Absolutely. Mairéad, you're in the midst of the rebranding journey, and very successfully going through the Brand Bite program as we speak. What were the initial signs that made you realise that a sort of brand redevelopment was necessary for you?
I think from what Pat was saying earlier, just the key messages, I didn't really think it came across with the packaging. And I also, I suppose as a small producer, to work in on your brand just seems like something that's not very high up on your list of sort of budget items for the year, because it's the money's always tight, so you kind of allocate it to where you think it's important. But I suppose I'm very fortunate that I'm on this program. But yeah, the key messages and just getting the kind of the story out there, telling people what you're about and what you're trying to do, to highlight everything that you believe in the product, which you might necessarily be reflected on the packaging. So, and just to focus on it and spend time looking at it, because you kind of you're so engrossed in everything else to do with the business. Sometimes that gets forgotten about. Absolutely. And it's your shop window really, and you really need to kind of spend time on it and work on it.
Yeah, so, and I think going through the journey with each of the participants and yourself in particular, Mairéad, I think sometimes we take things in our business as a given that everybody sort of knows it. It's almost like the things that we're living and breathing every day. So why would we talk about them? But actually, when Pat takes you into the workshop and you really deep dive with Pat and the team into the brand, it's those they're the golden nuggets, they're the things that really do make you stand out, and sometimes they can get lost because you're busy with the operation or you're busy trying to get listings, whatever, and sometimes we could just forget about that.
That's true.
Shemaine, for the brands that are going through the brand journey, how can a strong brand identity really influence helping you stand out from a consumer and also drive sales ultimately?
Ultimately. So look, one of the biggest things is about differentiation. It's cutting through the noise. It's such a competitive market out there, and particularly in retail, and trying to actually stand out on shelf. And one of the examples I often use is if you walk into any supermarket and you look at the yogurt stand, and you will see it is just, I put it up on a screen. I did some branding workshops recently, and I put it up and I was like, well, tell me, what's the difference? What stands out? And it's like, oh, well, I see Actimel because I know Actimel, because every child in the country drinks it. But, it's like, what are the brands that are standing out? And it was like Killoan. Why? Because they've got a glass jar. Because they've got, there was another one, I can't remember which brand, but it was like, it was really colourful because it was protein or gut health. So it's, you really need to differentiate yourself. And if you're not, if you don't differentiate yourself through your branding, you're not going to cut through the noise and create those sales. It's also about building that trust and loyalty with people. So, if you having a strong brand is, building that trust with your customers and that point of difference. And communicating your story. Like at the end of the day, you need to communicate what that story is and what makes you stand out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I suppose that the next sort of set of questions is really about diving into the branding process. So I'm a new producer, never really been through a process before. Maybe just talk us through, Pat, simply, how you bring the brand through the process, and perhaps use one or two examples of brands that have been through it, and we might see them as sort of our inspiration now.
Okay. Well, look, I said we're in NEWorld's in business 40 years, so we've worked.
Congratulations! Wow, 40 years. It's amazing.
40. I know I don't look it. Thanks. Unfortunately, I do. I feel it. But over that 40 years, we have created basically a bespoke program that we work on, and a lot of it is, like I say, it's sitting down and doing the dirty, actually getting into your head to talk, because when somebody sits at the table with us and they actually come to the table and say, I think I need to brand or rebrand, that's actually an acceptance of where they are right then and there. So what we do is go through the process. And like I said, we have step process. The key things are really going in, you call the golden nuggets, is finding things we call brand truths. Those little things that you do have and your direct competitor does not have. Once we find those and we can stand over and say, guess what, none of our competitors have that, then we build little sound bites of information that we can go out to market with that. Now we all of a sudden start having stuff that we actually own. Then on top of that, you actually look at other areas like, okay, what does this brand not want to be going forward? What does it not want to be associated with? That's a big decision as a brand owner to get there, because right away when you're a business owner or a brand owner, you want to be all things to all people because you think it's all going to make you wealthy and it's going to make you happy and all of that. It's making that decision as a brand owner that, no, I won't go there because that's distracting me from doing what I do best, all right? And I know we might come into that because this is where the dangerous line of private label comes in, as well as owning your own brand when you're trying to balance the two. But once you go through all of that and you actually have your, and we call them your key assets of what the brand's about. Now remember, there's no design here yet. You didn't hear me mention that. That's when we start to dress it. And the dressing then is briefed into the design, is based on all those truths and assets that we do have. And when you start to put the clothes on, the packaging, the logos and all of that.
The wallpaper.
Exactly, but it makes sense and there's no cracks, all right? That's the one thing, there's no cracks underneath there. And believe me, when you hit that moment, that eureka moment, and you go into a buyer to say, list me, they feel you believe in it and they know you have something different. That's where the magic is at the end of the day, because it's your brand and they know you own it, okay? It's not just about packaging.
And Mairéad, thank you, Pat, for that. So going through that process and being a sort of a live example, what was the sort of biggest learning experience for you?
I think, as Pat said, the brand truths, really sort of getting to what your values are, what your brand values are, and really thinking through, rather than just, as he says, looking at here's a nice box, wouldn't your pastry look lovely in this? It's more about getting to know you and what you care about, and that's reflected through the packaging, because what you care about is reflected in your product ultimately, really. And I think it's a key part of the process so far, because you can think, like even Brian McDermott was saying last night about, people sell, people buy people, and you sort of think, well, what's my story and what makes me, is my story very interesting? But when you actually dig down and you go a bit deeper into your brand values, you really it all comes to the surface, and I think it's a really positive experience just to do that.
And as Pat said, it builds your confidence.
It builds your confidence,
in being able to portray your story, because your story is different, it is unique.
Yeah,
and it gives you the confidence in front of a buyer or in front of a journalist.
Yeah, because it's a great process to go through, really. Yeah, it really is.
Shemaine, thank you, Mairéad. Shemaine, so how? Again, I'm a producer sitting in the audience. What are the triggers? What are the things that, might throw themselves up to say, I should start considering a rebranding process, or indeed a branding process, because, they haven't actually maybe done anything yet on it. What are the triggers that you'd say, or the questions maybe
yeah,
to ask yourself?
I think if you're looking at a rebrand, often brands will come and they'll be like, we've got a number of different, we've lost our way a little bit. You know, over the years we've kind of just thrown different brands or different logos, and it's kind of lost its way a little bit. And so it needs to be, recalibrated and bring it back to the fundamentals, going back to the basics, going back to what you're about, go back to your story and start again.
So peel off the wallpaper, peel off the plaster,
go back, because
see what's under
loving
there.
this, aren't you? You're loving this.
But you know, I like analogies, and I like, it's like, so are the foundations even right?
And businesses that have, you're so much in the day to day, and you're out and you're forgetting. You kind of go, oh God, hold on a minute, where's my brand at? Like, I need to stop and take stock again. Like, even though, you're running and you're doing really well, it's like, okay, well, in order for me to actually get to the next phase of my business, I need to actually take stock now. I suppose other reasons, if your business is a little bit stagnant or competitors have come into the market and you've been left behind a little bit and you need to refresh. Often it's not a complete rebrand, it's just a refresh. It's just bringing
evolution,
it's just bringing the colours and the fonts and the whole identity, just modernising it a little bit. Or if you're going to a new market, or there's new products or new categories that you're going into. And again, if you're working in a particular category, but your evolution is now going into a different category, you might need to bring a refresh in as well.
Very good. Yeah. And as a brand owner, or a business owner, we can't say that business isn't emotional. And growing a business, owning a business, doesn't come with its emotions and its emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
So what are from a I suppose looking back through the journey of brand sort of redevelopment, what are the pitfalls that we can get caught up in or?
Yeah, I guess not understanding what you're all about. Emotion is one of the biggest words in it, all right? And you can get too close, that you can get very anal and think that this is the only way that you should actually talk about yourself or present yourself from a packaging point of view, because that's what I know how to do. That's the best thing about things like market research or going out to talk to people as well, because even though you have all the right stuff, you do want to go out, because you remember, you'll learn from the market that's out there, okay? And the other key thing from an emotional point of view is, I said it before, is not to try to not to be all things to all people. Know what you do good and do it better. All right, and really own that there. So that's probably the key pitfall when it comes down to the emotional connection you have with it. You can be close, but remember, it is a living entity, but you have to keep control of your brand.
Of course.
Because
it's Shemaine, any pitfalls?
Yeah, I mean, I think really just to re-emphasize the point that you're saying is about like knowing your customer, knowing who that target audience is, because often I work with brands and they're like, oh yeah, but like they're trying to target everybody, and they're like from young to old, and it's like, yes, everybody will buy your product, but actually where's 80% of your sales going to come from? And if you say, okay, well, I'm targeting the 25 to 35 year olds, females, and get into the detail of who they are, what do they do, what car do they drive, what shops do they go into, what kind of salary they have, really understand who they are, and that's who you're going after, because you know what, you can focus your marketing spend then on that customer. Because if you try and focus your marketing spend to everybody, it'll dilute everything and you won't get anywhere. So really target in. So often it's just knowing that your customer, getting that target audience, and often brands just try to target everybody, and you can't be everything to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Mairéad, any pitfalls from your experience?
Yeah, I suppose it's a lot of it. You can give too much information. I think some of people are on packaging particularly, or on websites and stuff, you're given too much information. So I found that I was given too much kind of recipes and cooking instructions and things like that, and I just, it wasn't really the best thing to do. People,
There's
at
no
the end
cut
of the
through
day,
then on the key,
yeah,
on your
it
key
is
onlyness, or
it's
real.
really, I make the pastry, and this is what you follow a recipe that includes pastry, follow your own recipe. Whereas I was kind of getting caught up in a lot of that, which is something I wouldn't necessarily. Obviously basic cooking instructions are essential, but As far as giving people recipes and people coming back to you and I think, well, I'm not a chef, I'm not a, this is not, I can give guidelines, but I'm not really. So that sort of thing I would avoid. But
and going back to something you said, Shemaine, I mean, any aisle, is busy.
Yeah.
With products and brands and offerings and promotions and all of that, and you really do need to cut through and simplify it for the consumer, because we're all very busy. We all try and get that grocery shop done as quickly as possible. We don't always have the liberty of time to browse, and so you really do want to stand out in a crowded market. And how you do that is actually, I'm a firm believer in less is more. Sometimes, and some of the more simplified brands that are pared back, that are as beautiful to look at as the ones that are trying to say a lot of messages. And actually, sometimes consumers can resonate with that a lot better. In terms of, I suppose, justifying the investment in branding, because I think we can often see it as a cost to the business, but actually I think it's an investment in branding. We still need to justify it, particularly as a small producer, where the marketing budgets might be zero, Shemaine. So like how do you justify it, and how do you sort of think about it, Pat, in terms of that new brand will bring potentially new business and new opportunities and future growth, etc. How do you justify it?
There's one word: sales.
Very good.
At the end of the day, the sales. There's obviously talkability. You need to be out there, making sure people are talking about you. But I guess the key thing that you have to watch with that is controlled perception. All right, because branding is all about perception, and you as brand owners can control what that perception will be by what messages you continuously and constantly put out about your brand. That will develop talkability, which will develop sales at the end of the day. But it has to come down to sales. There's nobody that's ever come into NEWorld and said, hey, I want you to rebrand. We have all kinds of money. It doesn't matter if it doesn't have a return on investment. It does.
Absolutely,
it does.
Yeah. And the return on investment, are there certain metrics that you would... So sales
more money
is one.
Sales.
Yeah.
Okay, so like you could go through all kinds of math work and the metrics and all that. There's no thing. Everybody's going to come down and say, look, we put this much in. We want to see a return on it. Sometimes they'll say we need to see X-fold or whatever. They have their own metrics at the end of the day. But our job is to make sure that we line up all the ducks for them, and when they go out to war, they're in the right order. All right.
Mairéad, appreciating that Roll It Pastry's new look and feel hasn't launched yet. Very exciting for it to come in the future months. But just even to date in the programme, what changes have you seen or felt, and has it been having a positive impact on your sales yet?
Because already I'm in the process of redoing my web. I was in the process of redoing my website before I was successful in the application, so I've kind of put that on hold and really looked back at what I've done on my website so far and thought I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I'm already thinking of the
changes
that are going to be made, and just as I've said already, just going through the whole process has kind of brought a lot more to my attention in terms of the story and what the message I'm trying to put across.
Brilliant.
So it's definitely.
And how about your confidence in meeting buyers and negotiating those deals?
Definitely. I mean, I definitely see it will help with that, and I do think the overall packaging, the brand story, which will be reflected on the website, because everyone goes to the website. And obviously social media as well, because I think we all think we've all the time in the world to do it, but most people don't. And, it's just to be able to kind of share some of that story and share some of those points that have come up during the process. So it's been really positive.
Brilliant.
No, it's really exciting now.
Thanks, Mairéad. Shemaine, what strategies do you recommend for companies, for producers here that are looking to sort of balance that creative vision with budget constraints and the rebranding? Can I justify the investment?
Yeah, I think they have to sit down and think about this, not just and I think we mentioned it early. This is not just a packaging. This is not a logo. This is the future of your business. This is what you are going to sit in front of a retailer and tell them how you're going to get onto the shelf. This is not just rocking up with a product and going, I've got a new pastry, or I've got a new yogurt. It's about telling them the story. It's about telling them how you're going to sit on shelf. It's about what you're going to do to support and to grow the sales within the retailer. It's the whole story, and this is what branding is about. It's not just about a pack or a logo. It's about the whole story and telling that story to the retailers to make sure that, so when you're sitting and going, okay, I've only got X amount of money to spend, don't just think, oh God, what? You have to think about the future and what it's going to deliver. Are you looking for listings in Tesco? Are you looking for listings in any of the retailers? Are you looking to grow your brand awareness? Are you looking to get into different food service outlets, etc.? So think about your vision for your business, and that's what your branding is going to help you achieve.
Brilliant. Before we let the microphone out through the audience, because I know I can sense there's a load of questions coming, I'm going to ask each of you just one practical piece of advice.
I guess be pitch perfect. All right, understand what you're about, the one thing that you're about, and make sure that everybody that's associated with your brand goes out and it says that exact same thing every single time. That's probably the one key thing that's going to win.
Brilliant. Mairéad, anybody who's maybe a bit hesitant to embark the journey, what practical advice?
Yeah, I
would you
think
offer?
the best thing to do is to really go into shops and supermarkets and look around and see what's there. I think it's I know some of the retailers would one retailer in particular would always say to you, look, put your product, bring it into the store, put it on the shelf, and see where does it fit, how does it jump out, what does it look like compared to everyone else's, if that's the market you're going for. So I think it's really important to kind of constantly looking at what other people are doing. It's not to compare yourself always, but just to see what's out there and things,
To be inspired. Yeah, absolutely. Shemaine?
Well, I would take the name of my business and say be brave, and try and think of things. How can you do things differently? How can you show up differently? And think about things. I just saw something on Instagram just before I came out, and I thought it was a brilliant example of a partnership and something that. So it's Chuppy, if everyone knows Chuppy, the jewellery brand, a partnership with 2201 Patisserie 22. Isn't that what
2210?
2210. And they've basically said for the whole month of October, there's a chance, if you order this cake, there's a chance to win a €1,000 voucher in jewellery for Chuppy. And it's just taking two amazing brands that wouldn't have cost either of them much to elevate each other's brand and brand awareness. So it's just thinking outside the box. And also don't always think about, if you're going to do collaborations, don't always just think about your own category, but think about a brand that you can align to, that aligns with your values, and how you can both work together to elevate your brand. So
Brilliant.
Yeah, be brave.
Great piece of advice. Thank you. I'm going to allow Vivian, any burning questions we want to ask the panel? I mean, we have a wealth of knowledge here, so. You might introduce yourself, Matt.
Hi, my name's Matt from
No.
Just shout or talk loudly, Matt.
Hello. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have a habit of asking questions. Sorry for that. Lovely session. I've met all of you individually, except for Pat.
Uh-oh.
Coming.
Aim it at him.
I guess I'm standing here thinking I don't produce food, but I obviously have a brand and a website. Do you have any advice for anybody in the room where they might be thinking, do I need a rebrand, and what that might look like? What are the telling points or signs that a rebrand may be advantageous for your company?
Fantastic. Pat, do you want to?
Well, once again, if your sales aren't performing, there might be something there, okay? When you go out, and you were talking about going out and looking at yourself compared to your competition that's possibly out there, and if you feel quite weak, there's possibility you are quite weak, all right? It's all, there's a million different signs out there. You kind of know when the buyer's telling you, listen, you got 1 week left, buddy. And then you might have to do something on it. And the other thing is, and this is the key thing, because you heard what I was talking about. If you just feel that you're going out to sell a product, then you're in a bad place to begin with, all right? You have to be, you used the word emotional before, Annie. You have to feel when you go out that this is yours. So you have to have that buzz every single day when you get up. Say, I'm going to go in and do this again. That's the brand, all right? That's where the brand is. It's in the heart, okay? If you lose that, it's time to rebrand.
Excellent. Thanks. Great question. Mairéad, Shemaine, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think it's just if you've lost your message as well, if you've lost your, if you're feeling that you're not clear on your message, then it's something that you might want to say, right, we need to get clarity again, because I think, it's like that elevator pitch moment. It's what is your essence, what makes you, and it's basically bottling up that passion that you have and what you do that's different, and making sure that is going out there each and every time. And if that means after, some people might go, well, I only rebranded like 3, 4, 5 years ago. The market evolves. It changes so often that you have to keep up with it, especially in retail. So,
relevance is
Relevant. Irrelevant. Yeah.
That's another really good word. Yeah. Fantastic. Any other questions from the floor?
Oh yeah, sorry, just say.
You might introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, hi, John. I don't have a brand.
Yes, John.
No, I'll pass. I'm through that. What's interesting is we're talking about branding, marketing. How important is the underlying product? It's you can't polish or you can't put lipstick on a pig.
Yeah.
If you have a fixed budget, should you be spending it investing in an underlying product that should sell itself? If you're the best, chowder in Howth, it's going to work. Or should you invest in understanding that brand story or even a bespoke marketing campaign in a specific zone?
Really good question, John. Thank you.
That's an excellent question. Do I jump in there?
Go first.
Number one, like if you don't have a good product, then it's almost illegal that you want to go out and create a great brand story and great packaging around that and feel good by selling that to people. So number one, you have to have a really good brand. You want to stand over it. There's your name on it, your signature on it. So if you don't have a big budget, you're right. There's so many different ways to go in branding. Like we're talking maybe a little bit high end maybe for you right now. Start small, start lower, get people talking about it. What was the fellas, the Innocent Juice guys? We had nothing to do with it. I wish I did. 2 guys with a great idea want to take on the big world and all that. And they go out to just, these concerts and stuff and they say, have a sip of the juice, it's free. Do you like it? Do you don't like it? They did their own marketing, and then they created a following. It's very easy to go out and start to do that as long as you're honest with people and you're asking for their help. So yeah, you can do it different ways, all right? But product has to be right.
Totally agree with you. And I think if we're again going back to the analogy of the wallpaper, the plaster, the walls, the bricks, the taste of the product is ultimately the foundation.
Yeah.
And if the foundations are not there, and I imagine with all of these wonderful finalists in the room, and indeed some winners already, because I've seen the pieces of glass floating around, that's giving you the credibility that your product is great. So now it's just wrapping it up to demonstrate those cues of deliciousness and tastiness.
Can I just add to that? Just like I completely 100% agree. It's all about product. It's like you can say, oh, I'll take a product and then I'll dress it up and it'll be fine, but that's not going to give you a long-term business, because people will taste that and go. But can I say, when it comes to taste and things like that, if anyone hasn't tried that cookie dough, guys out there, but that to me was a great example of a product that it's a difficult, because it's in a different category. He has to put his product. If anyone doesn't know, it's a dough that's it looks like a pudding, it looks like Clonakilty pudding, and it's he said he's positioned beside butter, which is a difficult, because that's the customer journey. I want a cookie, I'm going down the cookie aisle, but he's beside butter, so it's very different. But I said, oh my God, the taste of that product is unbelievable. His biggest challenge now is to get that product to taste, get as many people to taste that product, because oh my God, I'm totally converted. I need to buy a load of them on the way out. But again,
she's a brand ambassador for them.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's really important, that your target consumer, and you're clearly a target consumer with kids in your family, that target consumer, you've got them to be talking about your product. You want them to be the ambassadors of your product. So it goes back to, it has to taste delicious so that people talk about it. Yeah. And then you've got to get noticed in order for the new customers to find it on shelf and to pick it up and to become those ambassadors.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Brilliant. To just, I suppose, wrap up, wish those who haven't yet got into next door to pick up the piece of glass, I wish you good luck. You're all winners already, as you know. Mairéad is about to leave us and head in that way. So wishing you luck as well, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to Pat, to Mairéad
Thank you.
and to Shemaine and to all of you for joining us this afternoon. We're going to leave it there, and I know there is another session coming very shortly at 3 o'clock, so go grab yourself a coffee, chat to any of us if you wish, and wishing you a really rest of the Bloss weekend celebration. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Annie. Thank you.